Hello, and welcome to the webDEALER Systems training series, brought to you by the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. This training series is here to help dealers better understand how to use the webDEALER system to manage plate assignments, title and registration transactions, and manage plate inventory in the right way while following Texas requirements. Today's session will cover some of the most common reasons webDEALER transactions are returned or rejected during county review. We will talk about how to spot common mistakes, share helpful best practices, and give tips that can help you submit transactions more accurately, avoid delays, and get them completed correctly the first time. Let us go ahead and get started. Before we get into the specific return reasons, let us look at the bigger picture. After reviewing more than 500,000 transactions, we found that about 1 out of every 3 transactions were returned by the county during the webDEALER review process. We also found thousands of different return reasons. Those reasons were grouped into categories so we could identify the top 10 most common issues, which are shown here on the graph. The good news is that these types of returns can be prevented. This training was created to help reduce common mistakes and make the submission process smoother for both dealers and the counties reviewing the transactions and documents. Now, let us look at the number 1 return reason. The number 1 reason transactions get returned is missing documents. Think of each transaction like a puzzle. Every piece needs to be there for it to make sense. If even one required document is missing, the transaction is incomplete and may have to be returned for correction. That is why every transaction must be complete and include all required and applicable documents. Let us look at the documents that are missed most often. Some of the documents we most commonly see missing from transactions are ownership evidence, the surrendered stamp on ownership evidence, the statement of facts, power of attorney forms, original release of liens, and special transaction forms. The surrendered stamp is especially important and should be placed on the ownership evidence. When there is a separate dealer reassignment form, the stamp should also appear there since it is part of the title paperwork. None of these documents are unusual or rare. They are all common parts of everyday dealer transactions. But when even one required document is missing, the entire transaction can come to a stop. Now let us talk about why these documents are often missed and what you can do to help prevent those returns. Before submitting, pause and ask yourself, what documents does this transaction need to be complete? Every transaction is different, and the required documents will depend on the type of transaction. For example, if the 130U application shows a power of attorney signature, then the power of attorney document must also be included. If there is an odometer correction or another type of error, you will need a statement of fact. Remember, the county can only approve what they can see in the transaction. One of the best tools to help with this is Appendix 5 of the webDEALER User Guide. It shows the correct upload order for documents and can be used to help you check that everything required is included before you submit. Take a few extra seconds to review your transaction now and save yourself some time later. Next, let us talk specifically about ownership evidence and the surrendered stamp. Now let us take a closer look at ownership evidence and surrendered stamp requirements. Original ownership evidence, such as a Texas title, out-of-state title, manufacturer's certificate of origin, or certified copy of title, must be properly stamped surrendered on both the front and back before being scanned and uploaded into webDEALER. This requirement also applies to dealer reassignments. The surrendered stamp should be placed on the next blank assignment on the back of the ownership document. If all assignments are full, the stamp may be placed in the Lienholder section or diagonally across the back as long as it does not cover any valuable information. A surrendered stamp shows that the title has been properly surrendered and meets the requirements. If there is no surrendered stamp, the ownership evidence should be treated as missing. This is one of the most common return reasons, but it is also one of the easiest to prevent. Taking a few extra seconds to review your documents before uploading can help avoid delays and return transactions. Now that we have covered missing documents and surrendered stamp requirements, let us move on to the second highest return category. The second most common reason a transaction gets sent back has to do with scan quality and upload order. Good image quality and uploading documents in the right order are important. They help keep the vehicle's digital record correct and trustworthy. If images are hard to read or documents are uploaded in the wrong order, the transaction may be sent back. Now let us talk about scan quality and what to look for. When it comes to scan quality, the rule is simple. If a document is hard to read, it cannot be approved. Documents must be clear, legible, and easy to review. Dark images, blurry text, cut off information, crooked scans, or the void security text showing through can all result in transactions being sent back. Let's go over some best practices that can help make sure your images come through clearly. First, make sure your scanner settings are adjusted for clarity. If an image is too dark or too light, vital details may not come through. Adjusting the brightness or contrast can go a long way in improving readability. And it can also help reduce the void security background from showing too heavily on scan titles. Whenever possible, use color scans. Color scans can reduce the void effect better than black and white scans and often provide a clearer image overall. Many dealerships use mobile devices to upload documents, and that is completely fine when done correctly. Mobile images are acceptable if they meet webDEALER requirements. That means proper lighting, PDF format, clean cropping with no extra background showing, and the page in the correct orientation. If the image is clear, legible, and easy to review, it should be good to go. The goal is simple. Make the document easy to read the first time so the transaction does not get sent back for corrections. Next, let's talk about upload order. Document upload order matters. The correct upload order for webDEALER is based on the Texas Title Manual and is outlined in Appendix 5 of the webDEALER Dealer User Guide, the same document you can see on this slide. It is a great reference to keep nearby as a reminder. The order is straightforward. The 130U always goes first. Next comes your ownership evidence, such as a manufacturer's certificate of origin, a Texas certificate of title, a certified copy of Texas title, or an out-of-state title. If the transaction includes a dealer's reassignment of title or a VTR 41A, it is best practice to upload that immediately after your ownership evidence, since this is considered a supplement to your ownership evidence. Any remaining supporting documents should follow that. When documents are uploaded out of order, the transaction may be sent back. So following this sequence from start can save a lot of back and forth. Next, there's an important system note related to upload order that we want to make sure you're aware of. There is currently a known system limitation when using the individual upload option in webDEALER. Even when documents are uploaded in the correct order, they may not appear in the correct order on the receiving end. To avoid this issue until a fix is implemented, we strongly recommend using the Upload Complete Transaction option whenever possible. This gives you direct control over the order of the documents being submitted, which helps prevent unnecessary returns caused by sequencing issues. Now let us move into our third most common return category. Our third most common return category involves vehicle class and weight issues. What makes these errors especially important is that they are not always caught right away. That means a customer could end up with the wrong registration, and in some cases, this can even lead to a citation from law enforcement. Let us take a closer look at how these mistakes happened and what to watch for. First, let's take a closer look at vehicle class errors specifically. These returns happen when the vehicle classification entered in a plate does not match the classification in webDEALER or on supporting documents. In the example shown on this slide, the E-plate assignment lists the vehicle class as passenger truck, while the webDEALER transaction lists the class as simply truck. Even small differences like this can result in returns or processing errors at the county level. To help avoid these issues, always verify that the vehicle class matches across all systems before submitting the transaction. And if the classification on a previous Texas record was entered incorrectly and the system does not allow you to update it, the transaction may need to be submitted directly to the county office for correction. Next, let's look at another common issue related to vehicle weight information. Incorrect or missing weight information is a major return reason in this category. Some vehicle types require a carrying capacity or weight information to be entered on both the web application and the 130U application for title. If that information is missing, incorrect, or doesn't match across documents, the transaction may be returned. These types of errors are important because incorrect weight information can lead to improper registration being issued to the customer. One of the best ways to prevent these issues is to carefully verify all vehicle weight information before submitting the transaction. Additional guidance on proper weight requirements and classifications can also be found in our next slide. One of the best ways to avoid vehicle class and weight errors is by using these available training resources, which can be found in our resource document library or by scanning the QR codes shown above each resource. The title and registration class flowchart can help you determine the correct vehicle and registration classifications. The Vehicle Weight and Verification Guidelines resource can also help you determine the correct weight information to enter. Using these resources during processing can significantly reduce returns related to classifications and registration errors. Now let's move into another major return category, mismatched information in forms. Mismatched information in forms is our fourth highest return reason. This is also one of the hardest issues to correct once the transaction has already been processed. All forms and documents must belong to the same transaction that was entered into webDEALER. When information does not match, it can create serious issues involving incorrect registration, wrong vehicle classifications, and even ownership problems. These errors often require immediate correction because they can directly affect the customer. So let's talk about how these mistakes usually happen. Most of these errors happen when the wrong documents are accidentally uploaded as part of the transaction. This is especially common when dealerships are processing large numbers of title transactions at the same time. For example, a title clerk may accidentally select the wrong file while uploading documents. Even though this mistake may seem small, it can completely change the transaction when being reviewed by the county. That's why organization and final review are extremely important. Let's look at an example. In the example shown on this slide, you could immediately see that the vehicle information entered into webDEALER doesn't match the information shown on the uploaded 130U. This type of error is usually caused by uploading the wrong document as part of the transaction. The good news is that these mistakes are highly preventable. The next slide covers a few simple practices that can greatly reduce the chances of this happening. One of the best ways to avoid mismatched document errors is to use descriptive file names when saving digital scans. For example, you could save files using a format like make.year.vin.filetype. This is shown in the example on the slide. This type of naming system makes it much easier to identify which vehicle and document you're uploading. Another important step is visually reviewing every uploaded document before submitting the transaction to the county. Taking a few extra seconds to verify the documents can prevent major problems later. And these are not small mistakes. If these errors are not caught early, a customer can end up with the wrong vehicle title or registered in their name. Anyone who has dealt with switched ownership issues knows how difficult and time-consuming those corrections can become. They can also result in additional fees or even funding problems with lien holders. Next, let's talk about another common mismatch issue involving customer names. Another common mismatch issue happens when the owner's information doesn't match across all documents. For example, a customer may sign one document as John while their ID says Jonathan, or they may leave off their middle name on certain forms. However, title and registration requirements state that the customer's name must match their identification exactly on the 130U application. Even small differences in names can result in returns. The safest approach is to always verify the customer's ID and ensure the same full legal name is used consistently across all documents. Now let's move into the next return category. Our next return reason is incomplete applications. Counties are required to verify that a complete and accurate 130U application is submitted with every transaction unless the electronic buyer's acknowledgement was completed instead. This form is extremely important because it represents the agreement between the dealership and the purchaser regarding the sale. When required information is missing, the county is left with unanswered questions about the transaction. And when questions cannot be answered, the application is typically returned. Let's take a closer look at why this happens. Incomplete 130U applications are one of the most frustrating return reasons, but they are also one of the easiest to avoid. The 130U acts as the document that connects all parts of the transaction together. Because of that, counties review this form very carefully. Errors or missing information on the 130U often signal that additional problems may exist elsewhere in the transaction. In the example shown on this slide, highlighted sections identify the fields that must be completed for all motor vehicle dealer transactions. Depending on the situation, additional sections may also need to be completed. For example, if the customer had a middle name, then the middle name block would then become a required field. Or if the vehicle was a salvage vehicle or seller finance transaction, variations in box 38 may be required. The key takeaway is this: complete every section of the application that applies to your sale. A careful review of the 130U before submission can prevent many avoidable returns. Now let's move on to our sixth return category, signatures. Signatures confirm that all parties agree to the information contained within the documents. They also help establish the legal transfer of ownership. Because of that, signatures must be present, complete, and consistent across all forms. Missing or inconsistent signatures create uncertainty about the transaction and can result in returns. Let's look at some of the most common signature-related issues. One common issue is missing signatures or printed names from buyers or sellers. It is important to remember that when using a power of attorney, a signature and printed name is still required for each individual buyer or seller. A POA cannot simply sign once for multiple parties. Another common issue happens when all buyers have not signed the required documents. For example, a parent may want to surprise their child with a vehicle and add them as an owner. However, the dealership cannot add that child to the title without the child's signature and identification. Another highly returned reason is inconsistent names and signatures. A signature does not have to look identical every time, since everyone signs differently, but the name used and the signature style should remain reasonably consistent across documents and should align with the customer's ID. For example, if a customer signs one form as John Doe and another as Jonathan James Buck Doe, the county may question whether the signatures belong to the same person. And again, when signing as a POA, a signature is required for all buyers and sellers involved. We repeat this point because it is one of the most common return reasons we see. Let's continue discussing power of attorney forms. When signing as a power of attorney or POA, the person acting as POA must sign their own name, not the name of the person they are representing. They must also clearly indicate that they are signing as POA. The example shown on the top right demonstrates two of the correct ways to sign as a power of attorney. For a list of correct ways to sign as a POA, refer to the Texas Title Manual. Another important detail involves the VTR 271A, which is the Secure Power of Attorney form. This form includes a section where an entity can list an authorized agent's name. That field is optional. However, once a specific individual is listed, the authority becomes limited to that person only. For example, if the POA lists Jane Dealer as the authorized agent, but another employee signs the transaction would be considered incorrect. Understanding how POAs work can prevent many unnecessary returns. Additionally, we highly recommend that you are utilizing one POA for each applicant. By doing it this way, you remove the chance of being rejected for both applicants being on one form. Now let's move on to title assignments. Our next return category involves incorrect, incomplete, or unclear title assignments. A transaction must clearly show the chain of ownership from one owner to the next. The assignment should make sense, and the date should clearly show when ownership was transferred. There should never be confusion about who owned the vehicle and when. If counties cannot clearly follow the chain of ownership, the transaction may be returned. Let's look at a common example. One major reason these returns happen is because assignments contain incorrect names, unclear ownership transfers, or signatures from wrong individuals or businesses. In the example shown here, the assignment goes from ABC Auto to Shirley Lane. However, the next assignment goes from Good Guy Auto to John Doe. The problem is that the ownership chain doesn't clearly explain how the vehicle moved from Shirley Lane to Good Guy Auto. It's possible that Shirley Lane works for the dealership, but the assignments do not clearly show that. Assignment should always display a clear and logical chain of ownership from one entity to the next. If that chain is unclear, the county may return the transaction. Next, let's discuss another common reassignment issue. This common issue occurs when a dealer attempts to bypass the original assignment on a title. The VTR 41A dealer's reassignment of title form can only be used after the first assignment on the title has already been completed. In the example shown, the original title assignment was never completed before the dealership attempted to use a reassignment form. This is not acceptable. The first assignment on the title must always be completed before a reassignment form can be used, and all assignments must be completed in consecutive order. Understanding the proper order of assignments and reassignments can help prevent many avoidable returns. Now let's move into data sale issues. The next error within title assignments involves data sale problems. The issues happen when dates are altered, erased, or don't appear in consecutive order. When a data sale error occurs, a statement of fact is required from the seller involved in the error. Obtaining a statement of fact becomes especially difficult when a title has gone through multiple assignments and reassignments. That is why it is extremely important to carefully review all dates before submitting a transaction. The best practice is to review all assignments carefully and ensure that names and dates flow correctly from beginning to end. Now let's move into VIN and data entry errors. VIN and data entry errors is our 8th return category. These are different from mismatched document errors because the issue comes directly from entering incorrect information into webDEALER or onto the 130U. Although webDEALER includes a VIN decoder to help reduce mistakes, these errors are still happening frequently. Counties must verify that all information entered matches the vehicle being processed. Imagine purchasing a 2010 Ford F-150, but receiving a title for a 2010 Ford Explorer instead. Even a simple typing mistake can create major problems for customers and require expensive corrections later. Let's look at the most common VIN and data related mistakes. Common VIN and data entry errors include transposed numbers or digits, extra digits added to the VIN, or missing digits within the VIN. Other common mistakes involve incorrect vehicle information such as year, make, model, and body style. Many title clerks process transactions using only the paperwork provided and may never physically see the vehicle. Because of this, it's important to verify vehicle information before submitting the transaction. One great way to reduce errors is by using a VIN decoder. The website we recommend is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA's VIN decoder tool. By entering the VIN, the system can provide detailed information about the vehicle to help verify that the correct information is being entered. Now let's move on to odometer issues. Our 9th return category involves odometer issues or errors. Odometer disclosures must follow strict federal requirements under the Federal Truth and Mileage Act. These rules exist to protect consumers and ensure accurate mileage reporting. Errors involving odometer disclosures can lead to permanent vehicle brands being added to the title record, such as not actual mileage brand or exceeds mechanical limits brand. These brands will never fall off the record and can significantly reduce a vehicle's value. Because of this, odometer accuracy is extremely important. Let's look at one of the most common odometer errors. One of the largest odometer errors we see is mileage that reverts backward between assignments. In the example shown, the first assignment shows 25 miles. The next reassignment shows 11,520 miles. Then the final assignment drops back down to 25 miles again. This creates a major problem because the mileage history no longer makes logical sense. There are generally two ways to resolve this issue. The first option is to provide statement of facts from both the buyer and seller involved where the error occurred. The second option is to brand the vehicle as not actual mileage. If the vehicle is branded, the dealer must ensure the purchaser signs a VTR Form 130U marked as not actual mileage, and the title must also reflect that brand. Since these brands are permanent, it's always best to catch odometer errors before the transaction is submitted. Let's review a few additional odometer errors that are commonly seen. Other odometer issues include missing odometer readings on surrendered evidence, altered or erased mileage, exceeds mechanical limits or not actual mileage bands not being carried forward, and mileage on the 130U not matching the surrendered title evidence. To correct these errors, a detailed statement of fact is often required from all parties where the error occurred. The Truth in Mileage Act contains specific disclosure requirements. A statement of fact for an odometer error must include those requirements. We will go over some of these requirements in the next slide. If acceptable documentation cannot be provided, the vehicle may need to be permanently branded as not actual mileage. And as mentioned earlier, this brand can negatively affect the vehicle's value. And as a note, odometer errors rejected by the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System may follow different procedures than what's listed here. Today's training does not include transactions that were rejected by Nvidias. So now let's talk about how to avoid these issues. To help avoid odometer errors, always make sure the mileage entered into webDEALER and onto the 130U matches the surrendered ownership evidence exactly. This includes any mileage brands shown on the title. If an odometer reading was altered or entered incorrectly, statement of facts from both the buyer and seller involved in the error will usually be required. If a mileage disclosure is completely missing, the purchaser may need to complete the disclosure, and the updated title documents will need to be resubmitted. Carefully reviewing mileage before submission can prevent major problems later. For a statement of fact, the document must include requirements such as the vehicle VIN, year, make, odometer reading, indication if the mileage is actual miles, exceeds mechanical limits, or not actual miles, a space for a written statement, signature certifications, addresses, date of signature, and a statement on the form referencing federal law and that failure to complete the disclosure or providing false information may result in fines and/or imprisonment. Now let's move into our final major return category. Our final return category today involves lienholder and lien date errors. Counties must ensure liens are properly added to records so titles are issued to the correct entity. If a lien is missed, a customer could accidentally receive a title free and clear even though money is still owed on the vehicle. When this happens, the title may need to be revoked and reissued. Lien errors can also delay funding from lenders. Let's look at why these mistakes commonly happen. One common issue occurs when a certified lienholder ID is used, but the information entered on the 130U doesn't match the information tied to that certified lienholder ID. Another common issue involves lien dates that are missing or listed before the actual date of sale. To avoid these problems, always verify lien information before completing the 130U. Another major issue occurs when the lien is simply omitted during processing. This can create financial hardship for dealerships because lenders often withhold funding until the lien is correctly perfected. And if the customer already received a clear title, correcting the issue may take significantly longer. The next slide provides a helpful resource for verifying certified lienholder information. The QR code shown on this slide links to the list of all e-title certified lienholders. This resource can help verify the exact information associated with a certified lienholder ID. One common mistake happens when customers provide the address for a local bank branch, but the certified lienholder ID is connected to a different address. When using a certified lienholder ID, the information entered on the 130U must match the official lienholder information on the department's records. Using this resource during processing can help prevent many avoidable lien-related errors and potential returns. Now let's wrap up with a few final thoughts. Most return transactions are not caused by a lack of knowledge. They are usually caused by rushing, assumptions, or skipped review steps. One of the best things you can do is simply slow down during your final review process. Taking a few extra minutes to double check documents, signatures, dates, VINs, and upload order can prevent hours of corrections later. A strong review process helps both your dealership and the customer. Now let's look at some additional training resources available to you. On this slide, you'll find several training and resource links that you can use anytime. The first QR code will take you to our training video library. The second QR code provides access to our resource document library, and the third QR code will take you directly to the webDEALER Systems Resource playlist on YouTube. These resources are available so you can revisit trainings whenever needed and continue building your knowledge at your own pace. Before we finish, there's one more important resource we want to mention. Be sure to connect with us by clicking the envelope icon located at the bottom of our homepage to sign up for GovDelivery communications. Subscribing to these updates will help you stay informed on current TxDMV policies and procedures, rule changes, form updates, training announcements, and other important information. These updates are one of the best ways to stay current with the changes that may affect your dealership operations. If you have questions related to this training content, you can always contact us directly by email at vtr-training@txdmv.gov. We appreciate the work dealerships do every day, and we're always happy to help provide guidance and training support whenever possible. This concludes today's training. On behalf of the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles, thank you for taking the time to participate and for your continued partnership. We appreciate everything you do to help keep Texas title and registration transactions accurate and efficient. Thank you again, and have a great day.